Hey everyone, and welcome to my Bleed Synergy lineup guide, where I will explain at a beginner-friendly level what the synergy does, and hopefully it's gonna be easy enough and not gonna take too long to explain everything. But basically, what this video will have is explanations on commanders, the synergy itself, what castle skins, marching skins improve the synergy, the dragon skills, weapons, and advisors that you will need. But first, let's explain what Bleed does, and it's pretty simple. The synergy itself consists of increasing the amount of normal attacks that you do, which by concept is similar to the female synergy, but instead of active army skills, you just rely on the normal attacks and add buffs on top of them, which are mostly just crits, crit chance and crit damage, but they also have a chance of inflicting bleed, which is a damage over time effect, and it deals what a normal attack does over 5 seconds, and you can stack it up. It doesn't reset each time you inflict bleed if it's within those 5 seconds. And how that is possible, it's due to Sinara. You can find more details about her if you click on this commander icon, and then on the bottom left you see this list with guides from within the game itself. And if you go into the combo lineup, here you can see everything about the bleed synergy at various spending levels. And what you need to know is that you need Sinara's gold 4-star ability, which is this one, as she and Rhea are the primary commanders that you will need for this synergy. What Sinara does is she has a chance to proc more normal attacks for melee commanders, which in a way is similar to what Layla does, but with active army skills. However, you can see it's only for melee troops, so that means bows are out of the way. And then she also inflicts silenced and excited status onto your allied troops, which makes your troops unable to cast active army skills. So that means Layla's not gonna work, every commander in the female commander lineup is not gonna work, and excited status makes it so that you're unable to initiate weakness attacks against the weakest lineup, which means Jamie is out as well. It really limits the builds, mostly to infantry, as that's what the game has released most of for bleed. You can do very weak alternations of the synergy if you so wish, but mainly this synergy is just for infantry to focus on, as the best possible lineups are infantry focused. The next commander to talk about that is very important to have in this synergy is Rhea. What she does is basically just every time your commander lands a critical hit, that critical hit inflicts bleed on the target, so that's what enables the bleed attacks. And once your front row lands 20 normal attacks, you will deal a critical hit that deals 120% damage, and she inflicts silenced upon herself, which means she is not able to be used in a female lineup. Now, with Sinara and Rhea explained, let's just look at these formations a bit, because you can see they are everywhere except for the whale lineup, which have Jaqen and Vorian. But there are some alternations where Rhea is instead of Niking here, because you can, even though like Vorian should be her counterpart, they still work together, which is really massive. But Jaqen and Sinara do not work together, as Jaqen has the exact same awakening skill as Sinara's with the 4-star weapon, and he also has one line down here, which is basically for every 15 normal attacks done by the front row formation, he defeats 8% of the target's troops, but that 8% does not exceed 8% of Jaqen's current troops, which doesn't sound like much, but once his weapon is gonna be released, then that's gonna be probably increased, and it's gonna be a lot better. But that's it for him right now. Let's focus on these commanders down here first, and get the cav formation, spear formation out of the way. There are some commanders that are not included in this list, but I will mention them either way. Let's first start with Mango here. What he does is basically just increases attack and defense stats for cavalry commanders by 5% up to 50% for every critical hit. It really doesn't do much else. That's it for him. Like I said, like all of these cavalry builds, spear builds are very, very limited. And just if you want to play this energy, I really recommend just going for Inf. What Rob does, it just increases cav attack by 2% and has a bit of health and defense, so just a stat booster for the synergy if you opt for cav. And the last option for cav is Merrill Peak. He increases health by 5% after 4 normal attacks, only works on cavalry, and gives a 50% chance to crit with a 120% coefficient for the next attack. Pretty simple. That's the cavalry formation, if anyone is almost free to play and wants to use it. But even if you're Inf and have Sinara and Rhea, you could just make a better formation like this one above. Like, it's pretty easy to obtain these Lario and Barrett here through Weirwood Memories over time, even if you do not buy the recruitment pass. But if you have Sinara and Rhea, I would assume you to buy something into the game, so that should not be an issue. But let's get the spears first out of the way. For spearmen, although most of these commanders are just like stat boosters, like if you look at Gorel for example, he just decreases the target's defense and just like gives some stats for spears. That's it, that's about it. The same applies for Miranda, who is here. Like, she just increases the spearman's defense, but that's about it. And we also have another option here, which is Julian. And Julian can be used in a few lineups. Like, he increases damage dealt by his own column by 2% to a maximum of 16% for every attack his column does. So that is decent. That can be used in an actual bleed lineup. So even if you use infantry, you can still have him there because he also gives infantry attack with his skills. Then you have Patello, who also can be used. What Patello does, he basically just gives a bit of stats and works better than if you have a Chris or Andrea. After 25 seconds or 10 instances of healing, he increases the front row's damage by 30% and the reduction for 8% for the whole battle. So he does something useful than your typical stat booster. But now let's get into the bleed lineup recommendations. For free to play, we have Chris, who I already mentioned. He is only a stat booster, nothing more. He gives infantry attack, health, and also gives some decent defense with his awakening skill. Then you have Lario, who is in the recruitment pass, and he's actually good. What he does is that he increases the health by 5% after 4 normal attacks, only applying to infantry, and gives a 50% chance to crit with a 120% coefficient for the next attack, which is a copy-paste of Merrill's awakening skill, but for infantry. The next one is Barrett, whose awakening skill is basically that when the front row makes 8 normal attacks, he has 50% chance of inflicting bleed. So he synergizes well with Rhea. This do not boost your synergy by a lot, but as we go higher and higher on this list, you can notice like a big change once you get to the 1000 BD commanders, as at that point you really start to snowball this energy, and even in the cheaper, so to say, commanders, you still have like some really good options. Like you can see Julian here, which I mentioned before, and Kevin I really like. Maybe like it's a bit of bias probably, but basically his awakening skill is whenever the allied lineups use a normal attack, he has a chance to grant the lineup with the biggest losses a shield that reduces 10% of non-skill damage for 2 seconds. So his ability makes him worse against female, but good against weakness and other bleed synergies, and it can stack up to 50%. So if you are facing someone that's weakness, it's really good. If you're facing someone that uses bleed, he's also good. Whenever facing against cavalry with the female synergy, then that's when you're gonna have to watch out a bit. Then next we have John, who is one of the best commanders to get for this synergy. What he does is that when the battle begins, the front row receives 15% normal attack damage reduction for 15 seconds, and allied infantry's normal attacks will have a 20% chance to deal a crit for 115% damage coefficient for 25 seconds. It's pretty straightforward and really synergizes well with Rhea. So he should be, like, if you can't get Vorian, which I will explain later as he's the best to get, then I would really recommend you to go for John first. Now, with John explained, let's move on to the next commanders. One commander that is also really good is Darren. What he does is that when the allied front row lands a total of 50 normal attacks, he deals damage to all enemies with a 50% coefficient. However, if the target has been inflicted, and that's why it's really good to have Rhea, they will take damage one extra time with a 100% damage coefficient. 150% damage coefficient. So you can really snowball everything. We also have Sander here, but in my opinion he's not that great to have. What he does is that when the allied front row deals 14 normal attacks, he also deals damage equal to 550% of the troop attack to enemies directly in front and inflicts bleed. Now the last two commanders that are recommended here are Night King and Vorian. Night King obviously is a lot more expensive, as Vorian is now in the recharge packs, recharge chests, so you can obtain him like more easily. Night King, however, you can only realistically wait until Black Friday or Christmas to get him cheaper, but even then you will need him plus his weapon to maximize his awakening skill. He has with his army skills, he has no downside to bleed. He basically just summons the enemy dragon to attack the enemy lineup with the most troops and deals 160% damage. Gives some nice total stacks, casualty rate, which is also really good to see. And his awakening skill summons White Walkers after losing more than 20% of the lineup, with numbers being 90% of the troops lost for the lineup, and he gives 20% attack to the same lineup. So with his weapon you can really make these numbers go insane, but unless you get the weapon to 4 stars, I don't really see him as being a better option than Rhea in this best recommendations, as you can use Vorian and Rhea at the same time. Now, what Vorian does, since I've talked a lot about him but never explained, he increases allied infantry damage versus enemy cavalry, but that's only the beginning. He inflicts bleed every 3 normal attacks that lasts for 5 seconds. Obviously, like I said, it can also stack up. He increases the crit chance to the troops that he brings to the fight by 40% with a 180% damage coefficient, which is really strong. And that's not all, but every time when an allied troop deals a crit, he gains the skill to reflect 50% of damage taken and can stack up to 5 times. That's the most solid awakening skill in game currently, and if you can, I would really recommend just getting him first. Like, he's that strong, especially in the future. Like, he's gonna become easier to get. Now let's move on to some formation recommendations, which are all of these on the screen right now. These are all formations that I've either personally used or seen being used, and I believe that they can bring out the fullest of the synergy in various situations. With the formations and commanders out of the way, let's move on to the dragon skills. You realistically need only 2 dragon skills, the first being Dragon Bleed. What it does is simple. It increases the bleed damage dealt to enemies, and you can stack it up in a rally. That's a note for every dragon skill. You can just stack the effect more and more in rallies, making them stronger. That's why you should have specific dragons sending to rallies and events, making it easier to get the best out of the synergy. The other dragon skill is Dragon Flame, which is similar to the follow-up skill for female synergy. For each additional 10 attacks, there is a 20% chance to launch one flame attack with a dragon that has 50% damage coefficient, and it can be triggered 10 times. Pretty simple, and these are the only skills that you need to get to amplify the synergy. Now let's move on to the castle skins. We have Sunken City as a decent option, as it's good for RTS events. Then we have Silence, which is in the jackpot event. It increases the bleed damage, basically, that's what it does, by 25%. And Castle of Triumph, which is also in the jackpot event. It increases bleed and bleed damage dealt, normal attack damage by 5%, whilst the bleed damage by 25. Next we have the marching skins. There is one marching skin that's not available in the preview for marching skins, but it gives 30% infantry attack, and you can get it in the dice event. You can also get 2 marching skins from Return to Westeros. So if you have an alt that's not been played on for a while and you have close to 100k points in there from it, then you should definitely go for these 2 skins as well, as you can get them free to play. Or maybe if a friend has, you can also ask them to give you the points. They are Frozen Storm and A Dance of Snowflakes. They give 15% each. They have almost identical stats, and they're really decent options. But the best is Oathkeeper Army. That marching skin increases bleed damage and is in the monthly wheel event, so you can also slowly stack up to it, even if you don't want to pay the 12k BD to just get it in an instant. And lastly, but not least, let's move on to the advisors. And here are 4 of them that are good with this, for the synergy. We start off with the cheapest one, that is also in the adventure, Leaf. She increases damage dealt by melee attacks, and someone similar is Hodor for the purple quality. Then up next we have Podrick, who increases the crit rate during normal attacks with a 150% damage coefficient. And for purple, his counterpart is Brock Ironheart, who does the same thing. But yeah, this is the guide for the bleed synergy. I hope this helped you understand what the synergy does and what to go for in the future. If there are any questions, you can just ask them in the comments. I will answer them as good as possible. I will see you guys in my next video with the weakness guide. Stay tuned.